So, just want to welcome everyone to our Thursday afternoon. You're going to just waste another perfectly good Thursday afternoon here listening to information about how to save your life. But it's good to have you here. So I'm Dr. Miller. Christine's going to just sort of introduce me a little bit, then I'm going to introduce her, and she's going to go first because she's got the big chunk of the information for this afternoon.
Yes, it's great to be here with all of you. So I want to introduce Dr. Damon Miller. He's been in private practice in California since 1995. Dr. Miller is a board-certified medical doctor and certified by the American Naturopathic Certification Board with a broad and extensive medical background. He follows a natural, drugless therapy approach to healthcare, and his practice is limited to safe, non-surgical medicine, and he focuses on the treatment with chronic, terminal, and recurrent illnesses that has not been well received by traditional medicine.
Oh, thank you. And I just want to say about Christine. Christine is Christine Roche, a Master of Public Health and a certified nutritional specialist. She's board certified nutrition specialist and digestive health expert. She developed an integrative approach to optimizing digestive health and immunity based on her 25 years experience in healthcare. She's written 2 books and has taught courses at Stanford University Medical Center. And more importantly now, she's studied and worked with the leading functional and preventative medicine physicians in the United States and Europe. She has a health consulting practice, which is mostly virtual now since 1983, and specializes in optimizing gut immune system for virus prevention and works with EMF toxicity. She consults on all types of health issues, including autoimmune disorders, electromagnetic field toxicities, digestive issues, including all kinds of things, constipation, diarrhea, inflammatory bowel syndrome and disease, inflammatory bowel diseases of all sorts, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, heartburn, absorption issues, gut permeability. And she's also a licensed heart math trainer. She's pioneering the work of heart rate variability, biofeedback training for stress, burnout, and gut health. And Christina's going to lead us off today. She was sort of the one that really has, like I say, the big chunk of the information for this afternoon, which is about some fairly new work where they're showing some direct connections between the health of your gut and how you deal with the COVID virus. So, gut health is just popping everywhere you turn. Every time you go around a corner, somebody's talking about gut health and this, gut health and that, with depression, with all kinds of degenerative mental conditions and brain conditions like Alzheimer's. And it just seems like there's no problem you can have that having an unhealthy gut won't make it worse. And in fact, there's no problem you can have that fixing your gut, repairing your gut, optimizing your gut health won't help the problem you have. And this is especially true with dealing with viruses, any kind of an immune problem. Gut health or lack of gut health is a major player in a lot of autoimmune conditions. And so Christine, and then I'm gonna speak just a little bit later just about some of the interventions. But
Yes.
Christine, why don't you just kind of go with the this starting with this article and this work you've been reading about the relationship between gut health.
Yes. Well, it's been proven now, or the exciting part is Leo Gallant, MD, and also gastroenterologist Vishai Desi, DESI, found that, the key to whether or not you're going to get long COVID, how severe the disease is, or any type of virus. We could be talking about a cold, a flu, all viruses has to do with what type of bacteria you have in your gut. Your gut contains many different types of viruses, bacteria, fungus, all of that, the whole microbiome. The microbiome isn't just in the gut, it's also in our mouth. It starts when we swallow food. It's in the mouth, it's in the esophagus, it's in our stomach, it's in all of our organs. Each organ actually has its own microbiome. So there's fascinating research, which we won't go into today, but just to say that all types of cancer seem to be linked with a certain type of gut bacteria profile. So in this case, healthy immunity And your optimal functioning, of your immune cells, your T cells to identify invaders and kill them has a lot to do with how healthy your garden is. Think of it as, many of you may have a beautiful garden. And what happens is that all the research shows that even at the beginning, when a person gets COVID, even a mild case of COVID, what happens is that there's a very distinct, dramatic alteration of the gut composition and diversity of the gut microbiota. So what's been found is that what starts to happen is that you have profound changes and basically an overgrowth of the yeast and bad bugs start to fill your garden. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about is, how can you have a healthy garden from the beginning? Because we all know it's terrain. When I studied in Europe, the key wasn't so much what virus it was or whether it was what type of, flu virus or cold virus or any other type of virus. It had to do with your inner terrain. How acid alkaline are you? How well are you digesting your food, absorbing it? What's your micronutrient status? What about your white cells? Are they able to kill off the invaders, all the different cells? And one of the key things that was found in all the research is that there's profound microbial changes, which has to do with decreased diversity in the gut and richness. So you start getting only a few species as opposed to hundreds and thousands of species. And also what happens is that fungus and starts to proliferate with any type of, especially with COVID, but also a lot of viruses. So the beneficial bacteria is now depleted because most people start out with a barren terrain. So when I work with my clients, we evaluate through stool testing and through a number of other methods to look at how is your terrain. Remember, if you have a garden and you've got a lot of weeds, right, you have to remove the weeds in the garden and start making sure that the soil is rich and that you've got the right soil to grow the most beneficial plants in your garden. So thriving plants, a thriving microbiome has to do not just with the type of bacteria, it has to do with the quality of your terrain, your soil, whether you have intestinal permeability or not, many different factors, and whether you're doing the right types of foods that really strengthen your gut lining and also how you live your life, how stressed you are, all of that's really connected to. And so basically what they found in the research is the decreased diversity. Then what starts to happen is there's a bacteria, a good probiotic called F. prausnitzi. It's Prausnitzi, and it plays a key role in the development of COVID and long COVID, because once people get any type of virus, so they start the proliferation of the bacteria starts increasing the bad one, and the anti-inflammatory bacteria, those particular one like the F. prausnitzi, starts becoming less and less. So it starts to be lost, right? And the research also shows that your diet in the past years, especially the last 6 months, how many nutrients you're absorbing is correlated with that. So for example, I just want to mention that, stress raises cortisol. We all know it's got a pro-inflammatory response. It leads to leaky gut. So those people with leaky gut were the ones that had the most difficulty also, whether they were hospitalized or not, with getting after effects, having a more severe response to the virus, having, more severe after effects. Alcohol disrupts the balance of bacteria in the gut. So, a little bit is okay, but alcohol feeds the bad bacteria and caffeine disrupts it. My clients were really amazed. Wow, caffeine, alcohol, stress. Yeah, it's not just, it has to do with all those elements that affect the actual how your garden is manifested. So, and, many of you have heard of the studies that show that even one candy bar or one soda filled with sugar reduces immune response to viruses by 70%. So neutrophils become much less aggressive, is what the research was showing, if people are eating, certain amounts of sugars, processed food, it all feeds the bad bacteria. So what I learned in my research and in my interviews with the doctors is that how you start out when you get any type of virus, cold, flu, COVID, is the key. So you want to look at your terrain right now. What are you eating? Are you eating sugar, caffeine, things that disrupt the gut microbiome? And refined food, processed food, all feeds the bad bacteria. Even Truvia, which so many of the people I work with say, well, I'm no longer doing Splenda, but I'm taking a drink with Truvia because it's stevia, isn't it? No, that's not true. Truvia is actually chemically changed from the stevia. So in other words, again, if you're doing certain sweeteners, it can make a big difference, but it's really all together. When you look at your garden, you've got these weeds overgrowing. You've got the microbiome already growing, yeast, fungus, bacteria. You've got, different types of overgrowth of inflammatory bacteria. So then what happens is you catch a virus and all of a sudden you have a diminished sense of terrain already. And then that even disrupts it further. And so then your immune system is not able to really be able to fight against that because more and more of the bad bacteria colonizes. And so one of the key things is to look at, for example, the research all showed that how can you increase those bacteria in the winter right now, the flu season? Well, one of the keys is they found that, like if you have excessive bugs like Enterococcus faecalis, it may sound, like, let's just say it's a bad weed in your garden. That is one of the best predictors. If you've got dysbiosis and you have Klebsiella pneumoniae and you've got, lots of strains of yeast, it's the best predictor of how severely ill you will get with a cold, flu, or COVID, and how the best predictor of whether or not you're going to get through it or end up with the long COVID. One of the things on how to restore that's very important, because you can't just take these bugs. You can't just go to the grocery store and buy, F. prausnitzii. What you have to do is to consume the things that are going to stimulate that even when you're healthy. And so one of the things that they found in the research is that fiber-rich foods that fuel the short-chain fatty acid, which everything you eat, you have to eat, like the fermentation of fibers really makes a big difference. And they're called short-chain fatty acids that really help you. So, making sure you get the right amount of fiber, making sure that you're eating a prebiotic food that's a fermented food. So in the cultures where people live to be 100, they have a lot fewer effects of these viruses. People eat at least, like a sauerkraut, purple cabbage, kimchi, pickles, whatever fermented food you like. Have at least try 2 servings of that a day. What that does is it gets rid of the weeds and helps you to grow a strong foundation. Also, chickpeas are great. The research correlated chickpeas with a greater increase in F. prausnitzii, more stable flora if you come down with the virus. Avocados are great. And then what's really important is the purple foods. So anything purple potatoes, purple cabbage, purple kale, purple sauerkraut. The phenols, the polyphenols affect your body so that you're getting rid of the weeds. You're not starting with that virus, God forbid it, with a terrain that is acid, and you're eating a lot of things like sugar and things every day that lowers the immunity. Then you don't have the strains. You're totally bereft, and then something hits you, like the virus hits you, any type of virus, and your diversity and abundance goes down almost to, from 90% to 10%. So now you've got all these weeds overgrowing, and, the natural killer cells, all the cells, they can't really act on your behalf. You've got leaky gut, you've got all that going on, and it's also vice versa, because unfortunately, when you get a COVID virus, you're also going to generate leaky gut. So basically what you want to do is now in this season, whether you've had COVID or not, whether you've long COVID or not, build up with a bacteria called Bifidobacteria longum, BB536, Bacillus coagulus. Those are all things you can look at a probiotic. And I recommend, of course, the pharmaceutical strains that Dr. Miller and I are from, we work with specific strains of many different probiotics, not just one, but in the ones that contain the Bifidolongum, BB540, and the coagulants. And then when you take resveratrol and you're doing some of the things that really boost your immunity, curcumin, anti-inflammatories, with resveratrol together has been shown to make a major difference, profound changes again in allowing you to fight off, some of these particular strains of viruses. So there is a very important correlation, both as I was saying, there's a gut-lung connection. By the way, this was very important. There is flus and viral illnesses were reduced by 75%. When the probiotics, it shows that when you eat well, you're reducing your stress, you get enough sleep, and you eat some of the purple, some of the prebiotics, get your short chains in the right order, that shields the mucosa, improves immune functions, but also the probiotics that you're taking, and this doesn't just mean a pill. As a matter of fact, some people I've worked with, the pills don't really colonize. What colonizes is a rich soil. Remember, I was saying you don't want to just, you have a garden with a couple of weeds here or there and got rid of the weeds, and now you're just throwing all these strains that you buy at the store at the barren garden. It's not going to work. It's not going to grow the rich plants. You need to make sure the soil. What is the soil? It's making sure about the lining of the gut, how you're absorbing your food, what you're eating, and also having having an intact gut lining is a very important part. And then when you eat those rich foods, the polyphenol-rich foods, you're eating anti-inflammatory foods, turmeric, curcumin, green tea extract, NAC, N-acetylcysteine, quercetin, vitamin A, strengthening your lining, then what happens is you also are doing prebiotics at every meal, like those cultures that have shown their resistance to viruses. So you're doing, sauerkraut, a purple cabbage, you do that with every meal. Yes, now you've got the soil to develop the rich soil that is going to grow the healthy plants, and it's going to when you get rid of, the things. And so when you have a gut like that, your lungs and the lining in your lungs is profoundly connected. So the people showed that when people have an unhealthy gut, all that bacteria actually migrates into the lungs. So the microbiome in the lungs, in your gut, migrates up to the lungs and vice versa. And then it influences each other so that when your lung mucosa is healthy, when your gut's healthy, you're going to have a healthier respiratory tract. And flus and viral illnesses were reduced by 75% in the studies. So, food is medicine, how you live your life. You already know that about all the different lifestyle factors. It's amazing how these bacteria in your mouth, the other research shows that particular mouthwash, like, the iodine mouthwash, as well as nasal sprays, because it's all connected, the nose with the mouth, with, all of the things in the throat. But when you have a very disordered oral microbiome, it actually also affects all of your response to COVID and other viruses. So there's a lot of things that can be suggested for that. But one of the keys is, again, looking at how's my mouth, and using, certain types of mouthwash, iodine, different kinds of mouthwash that make a big difference in reducing the bad bacteria. So again, it's the same. You're colonizing your garden in your mouth, in your throat. What is it like in your esophagus, in your stomach, in every organ of your body? So it's not limited to gut at all. It's all the organs. So your mouth microbiome, when you swallow your food, everything will be interrelated to how you're going to respond to these viruses and bacteria. And I found in the research that the key is, to be very, very aware that it's all interrelated, keeping your lungs healthy now, making sure you're doing the right supplements, C, D, NAC, like we talked about quercetin. Dr. Miller will say some more about that. But the most exciting thing is, little exercise, not too much, again, strengthens the terrain, but to also assess the leaky gut, because most people that I've seen have had leaky gut. And what that means is that the lining is permeable. And so if all of the bacteria, fungus, virus then migrates into the bloodstream, causing an autoimmune response. we have an epidemic of autoimmunity. That is exactly the part that Dr. Desi showed that that's the most critical risk factor, because when you've got a leaky gut and you've got a garden overgrown with Klebsiella pneumoniae, all these bacteria, dysbiotic, then when a virus hits again, you don't have the response you need from your whole immune system. And so what can you do is to really work on food as medicine, make sure you're eating the foods that are optimal, and checking for leaky gut. I test people in my practice. I do a simple, test with them, or leaky gut. I also do simple gut testing to make sure, because why guess when you can test, most of the time people don't know. They say, oh my God, I feel great. And yet my stool analysis I took in the privacy of my home shows I've got 5 bacteria overgrowing. Am I going to be at risk for COVID? Or what happens if I get COVID? Yes, you will get much more likely to have a more severe case, and the long COVID is just sitting there if you have a gut microbiome that's very unhealthy. And again, that relates to the whole body. So I now would like to have Dr. Miller take it from there.
Okay, well, wow, that's amazing, Christine. That's really, thank you. And over on the right side of your screen, you see, part of what's needed in all of this is you need the information. So simply working with someone who knows what's going on, they can deduce from your history and some other things a lot. But when you're talking about the gut, there's some very good gut testing that Christine does and that I do that you've got to gather some information. You have to then use that information to come up with some sort of a plan to make your gut healthier. And then down the road, you need to test again to make sure you've hit your target and hit your mark and do that. So that's basically what you're getting when you get involved with Christine. That's what you're getting. You're getting access to the best testing, access to someone who knows how to read the results, access to someone who knows how to then suggest what to do. And so that's how you deal with this. And thank you. And, the terrain, it's kind of an ancient thing that's gone on in medicine, dating back to the time of Louis Pasteur. He's considered the father of immunobiology, and even in his time, there was a lot of debate as to the importance of these bugs. He showed this connection between bugs and infectious illness and the presence of these bugs in the gut. But he kind of wanted to talk about them as though the bugs were everything. And people use this very word, no, it's the terrain. That how can you explain why, just let's take COVID. That's what we're dealing with right now. Why do some people get COVID and they get over it and they're good? They just go about their life, and other people get COVID and they end up with a life-threatening, debilitating disease. They can't even go back to work. Same virus. Why does it affect one person one way and one person another way? It's because of the terrain. That people, the same virus can have a different effect on different people because of their health status and their immune system status. And so there are many things that affect your immune system status, but the gut is one, and it's one that's important and one that you can work with and improve. So I was going to talk just about a few other things that can do that. And I've had this link over here on the right for Christine. We'll be sending out an email after this that'll also have a link to her. So if you didn't catch this here, you'll get that again. But I'm going to just change that right now. Because one of the things I wanted to talk about is diet. Diet is, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that if you're talking about the health of the gut, probably what you're eating has some effect on that. Christine's touched on that very clearly, but eating healthy is often something that's a little bit of a brain bender for some people. They think they eat healthy, but maybe their health isn't as good as they'd like it to be. So we do this 4-week workshop on healthy eating. And basically what it does, the focus of this workshop We based it on a book by Louise Gittleman called The Fat Flush Plan. So don't be deceived, though. The focus of the workshop isn't about losing weight. She's a very shrewd person. She marketed the book for weight loss, but it's about eating healthily. And so we use it because it's a very proactive approach. It isn't about don't eat this, don't eat that. But it's you're just eating regular food, but you're not eating sugars. You're not eating a lot of fruits or simple carbs. You're not eating breads, and you're not eating dairy. So it removes, by just the nature of the way the diet is put together, it removes a lot of the foods that tend to be immunogenic, meaning they cause an immune or inflammatory. You can think almost of those words as synonymous. An immune reaction is an inflammatory reaction, or it produces an inflammatory reaction. So, people are sometimes amazed how with just a little help, like a program like this, where they go 4 or 6 weeks and they don't eat any simple carbs, they're not eating grains, they're not eating dairy, and suddenly they feel much better. They feel, they sleep better, their knees don't hurt anymore, the hands don't, if they have arthritis in their hands, that goes away. If they bother to look, their lab reports get better, their cholesterol goes down, their hemoglobin A1C goes down. So that's sort of the reason we've offered this in my medical practice for so long. I'm bringing it up here, though, because the very things you're doing in this are things that are going to assist you in having a healthier gut. One of the things that is a problem in the gut is inflammation. That's kind of what's behind the leaky gut. There's a lot of inflammation, and one of the things that causes a lot of the inflammation in the gut is eating foods that are causing an immune response. And so you can prove that to yourself by just not eating those foods for a few weeks and seeing what happens. There's testing that Christine does where you can see the levels of immunoglobulins in the gut, see if there's a high level immune response or low level inflammatory response. But we basically offer this because it's people often want a little assistance. It's one thing to tell people to eat better. It's another thing to offer a sort of program where you can be kind of taken by the hand and led into it with a little support. And so that's why we offer this course. And again, you'll get, you can sign up now, but you'll get a link as to when that course is going to be. Right now, it's going to start next week. It's going to run for 4 Wednesdays, starting on October 19th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Everything will be recorded. And the course involves just some videos that you watch and then a live conference call for the 4 weeks. And the one other thing I want to just say, just because I work with it a lot in my practice, is there's a connection between the mind and the body. So Christine talked about stress. Stress certainly, there's no problem you can have that stress won't make it worse. But there are a lot of burdens that we carry that we've picked up in our life. And some of them are subtle, some of them are not. But medicine acknowledges the existence of a mind-body connection, but then doesn't really even understand what that means or what to do about it. And so we do talk about that some in this course too, the healthy eating course, because there are ways that you can clear some of those burdens that might be stirring things up, memories replaying themselves. We've all had the experience where we remember something and it just swirls in our head for the whole day and kind of ruins the day. And that's having an effect on your health. And so we talk some about this. There's some very simple things you can do about that. But I've said enough. We're going to have a Q&A session. So if you want, you can raise your hand. There's a little thing that says speak down at the bottom. And just push that if you have a question. I know before we go to that, I have one question for you, Christine. And again, thank you for that very, very nice presentation. One thing I've been curious about, you alluded to this, you talked about this, that there, is evidence that in the past on Earth, human beings had tens of thousands of different species of things in their gut. And does the testing give you a sense of how diverse the biome is?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the new test that I do, what's very exciting is for those listeners that want to do, really look at the composition, it shows the diversity score, the dysbiosis, which is the overgrowth. It shows you exactly what's overgrowing, how diverse it is, and also the abundance within the microbiome. So you will know exactly how abundant it is, how diverse, what's bad that's growing, and what's good that's growing. So that it's the latest. It just was released a couple of months ago, that there are now much more graphs and you get it all in full color.
Great. Thank you. And then, yeah, that was the question I had. Yeah. So again, there's no obligation to ask questions here, but it's an opportunity. So there, you see a little thing on the right side. You should at least saying with a hand up like this, and if you press on that, you'll be able to speak. And if you're having trouble with that, there is also a button that says chat. You can type in the chat, and we'll see that. And if you don't have questions, we will leave this there. This is being recorded, and you'll get a link to the recording usually within about 12 hours. It's done rather automatically, so I don't have a way of speeding that up or slowing it down, but you will get that. And then there will be a follow-up email tomorrow that will also have a link to the recording. Okay. Give it another second. Some of you are shy. I know you don't like to ask questions. Okay, well, let's wrap it up. Christine, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And I think I don't see I want to make the offer for people. I don't see it yet on my screen up here. But,
oh, it was up while you were talking, but I'll put it back up here again.
Yeah, see, I don't. There's not on the right. It's pretty blank right now. Yeah, I'd like to, tell people about the offer. Here we go. Okay. So basically what I see, it says work with Christine to repair your gut. I'm giving you a really special offer, and that's available if you call me within the next week of hearing this, I would say actually within 48 hours, and you call 650-856-3151. Again, that's 650-856-3151, and also go to my website, www.digestivehealth.center, digestive health, .center. What I see, I don't see the offer up here. I just see, yes, I want to fix my gut and remove offer at the bottom. I don't see the specific offer up.
Well, no, it's just a link. If they press on that green button, it takes them to your
Okay, yes, I want to
website.
fix my gut. Okay, so then what I'm offering the listeners is, basically the first offer is that you can do a comprehensive digestive stool analysis with me without parasitology and a 30-minute consult at a special rate that's going to come up here. Or you can do just your gut immune system. There's a measurement called secretory IgA, and get a 30-minute consult. So all of that is online. When you click the link, you can see it, the special offer. I'm also, for those people that were not on the webinar that see this somewhere else, I'm happy to meet with you for 15 minutes to go over the pros and cons of doing the gut immunology assessment and 30-minute consult versus the comprehensive analysis. So both of those, you can just call me at this number and speak to me about comparing and contrasting the different offers.
Okay, and what was the, give me that phone number again.
650-856-3151. That's the best way to reach my office. And anyone that calls in the next few days, I'd say about 48 hours, we can guarantee that you can either have offer number one, which is a significant, like 70% off of the current testing price. And it's all there when you click on the green button. And offer number two is just the SIG-A. So it's an introduction to you, and I'm happy to work with you in whatever way you need as far as the follow-up. Also, if anybody on the call has done gut testing, I've recently had a lot of people contact me, bring in their tests. I find that it's very important in this season to get a retest at least once every 6 months, minimum once a year, because the inflammation level changes, the terrain changes, and you're getting a snapshot, you're getting a very accurate picture of your terrain. So call for an update, even if you're listening and you've done a gut test. We can do a modified retest, which is so critical to do that at least once a year.
Okay, thank you. And I realize here, I'm going to just go back. So this is also you can click on this link here, but the link to sign up for the Healthy Eating Workshop will also come in the follow-up emails. So you will get that. And yeah, so that's it. That's what we have for you today. Thank you all for coming, and we will be communicating. And I just want to say, just as a kind of looking ahead, we are going to do, there's just more to be said about gut immunity. So we're going to be doing another video in a few weeks about specifically about the link between gut immunity and degenerative mental brain problems like Alzheimer's and things like that. There was just a very exciting seminar that took place in Salt Lake City just last weekend on reversing ALS, reversing amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. So those kinds of things really excite me, because ALS, I've had friends die of ALS. I've had friends die of PLS, which is a very similar progressive lateral sclerosis. And they're very similar, but I've never heard of anyone improving or getting better or being cured. And this whole program brought a couple of dozen people together who had a confirmed diagnosis of ALS and got better. And I just mention it because, of course, you're doing everything you can think of to help people like that. But one of the things that's worked with extensively in the program is repairing unhealthy guts. So we're going to be talking about that, not just the gut, but other things that are being done to try and have you go to your grave with an intact mind. I guess that's the goal, is that you're still lucid when you meet your maker. Anyhow, on that happy note, sorry, we'll end it there. So thank you again. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Christine.